Hello there, Mima. I have made this specific tutorial for you to learn how to operate a modern main battle tank. So, the tank right here is the Leopard 2A4 MBT provided by the United Nations. This thing has a 120mm gun, and although it was made in the 1980s, it is still a very capable tank, especially for a beginner. So, there are four main roles in a modern tank. There is the commander, who sits right here. He commands the tank and spots targets with the gun. The commander also has thermal sights, which allow him to see both infantry and vehicles. Then, there is the loader. The loader's role is to load shells and breach for the gunner. Pretty straightforward. I missed it quickly. Next is the gunner himself, so the gunner, his role is to shoot anything with the tank, which he's learned how to in the And then finally, there is the driver. Since loader and commander aren't really roles that require. Commander requires you to have decision-making skills, which you don't really need at this stage. And loader has skills that you'll need. But actually, loader does not actually need skills. You just do a funny mini game, and if you get a machine gun, you can shoot at anything. Anyways, to start off, let's first start with the driver. Your role as a driver will be to move the tank around. Now this can range from moving from point A to point B, and to actually positioning the tank in somewhere that will help. For example, if I position my tank here, and there isn't any tank all the way over there, if I were to show him my side, you would get absolutely screamed at, because I would get absolutely screamed at, because showing your side and, well, think of it this way, you're not going to show your sides or back to someone for free, so don't do it in a tank. The sides are a no-go, and the back are a no-go. Another thing is hold down positions. Let's say there's a tank right there. I want to go somewhere that'll give me more protection from the tank. You can go here. This will hide your hull and will make it to where only the turret is showing here. If you take a look, these binoculars from way over here. Actually, no, I did not position that correctly. So if we take a look right here, as you can see, a lot of the hull is actually being hidden by that little trench right there, which improves the tank's survivability by a lot, because enemy tank is going to be usually right here. If an enemy tank were to see right there, he'd have a much harder time shooting at your lower glacis plate, which, use this armor measuring tool, is probably one of the easiest parts to penetrate. AKA this lower plate right here. It has value 40mm. That is slightly improved it's slightly improved by the angle on it, but it's still kind of weak. And they'll be able to penetrate through the tank and hit your precious ammo model right over here. Anyways, the next two, to drive, it's pretty straightforward. You adjust these gears right here. R1, which is reverse, and F1, which is forward. F2 and R2 are the higher gears. If you've ever driven manual, I'm guessing you haven't, because no one drives a manual vehicle in 2024. Basically, you see this RPM meter? That means something. Once the RPM meter is fully red, that's when you can switch to another gear. So you kind of have to shift gears. That's why it's called manual. Shift gears manual. You see, it's at the 4 mark. You're gonna go move to a higher gear at the time. As you can see, if I keep doing that, my tank speed will increase a lot, and I'll easily be able to reach the leopard's top speed of 70 kilometers per hour. As you can see, I'm on the 7th gear. It'll be harder to accelerate on rough terrain. That's why if you want to accelerate, you should use roads. However, remember that most roads usually don't have cover, just like this airfield. So you have to think of the trade-offs, is that rough terrain many times better for covering your tank, but roads are usually out in the open, and there might not always be cover. Now next is the gunner seat. Now considering that you use console, there's no point in using the manual range finding, since the game is going to give you the FCS or joystick control automatically. Joystick control basically means that instead of me being able to use my WASD keys and being able to move my mouse to control the gun, I use WASD like this, and it does a lot more sensitive. But instead of being able to move my mouse to make small adjustments, I have to use this little joystick thing in the game. However, the good thing about this is that it comes with a fire control system. Use N to lock on vehicles and B to turn on the leading mode. This will account for the speed. So once you lock onto an enemy vehicle, the gun will automatically calculate the speed. And another good thing about FCS is that the gun will automatically adjust itself to the area that you're targeting. For example, over there, 599. Let's say I'm trying to hit the top of this tree right here. 500. All I needed to do was click on the rangefinder to shoot and fire. Now, as you can see, I can reload even though I'm in the gunner seat. This is something that's actually capable for every tank game. However, tanks that do not have something called an autoloader will reload much slower when you're in the gunner seat. Some tanks don't have loaders, but almost every Russian tank that you'll see in the modern era does not have an autoloader. Some Western tanks don't. Most Western tanks don't, like the Leopard. The Leopard uses a loader, and so does the Abrams. However, infantry fighting vehicles don't have autoloaders, as they use autocannons with belt-fed magazines or something. So, I'd say that this is enough so that you can learn the basics of actually shooting. Now, for what these ammo types actually mean. Armor-piercing clean stainless discarded Sabo is basically an armor-piercing shell. There are a bunch of different types, but this is the modern version. Armor-piercing rounds will pierce through walls and are very good for penetrating enemy tanks. Unlike high explosive anti-tank shells, they will not be stopped by obstacles or spaced armor. Spaced armor is basically armor, full armor. It's basically the armor's armor. It sounds weird, but bear with me here. Spaced armor is basically usually a little bit of armor on the outside of the tank that is not vital to the tank, it's nor is it part of the tank. An example of this is these little skirts right here. These are spaced armor because these are not actually part of the tank. These are just extra add-ons. Some tanks are able to receive more spaced armor, and some spaced armor can come in the form of reactive armor, which is basically upgraded spaced armor. You don't need it. High explosive anti-tank rounds or rounds. Now, armor-piercing rounds should be 100% used against tanks and IFVs that are protected by explosive reactive armor, which will usually come in the form of a bunch of block-looking things on the tank. High explosive anti-tank shells should be used against infantry behind cover, as these rounds will cause explosions. Will cause explosions inside buildings, so even if an infantryman is, let's say, up on the top of that tower or behind that tower, if I were able to shoot there, that guy would be dead even if he was concealed and in cover, because high explosive and high explosive anti-tank have explosive inside of them, unlike armor-piercing shells. high-excellence anti-tank shells are capable of being used against infantry fighting vehicles and light transports like armored personnel carriers and cars. High-explosive shells are also usable for cars, but I don't recommend using them on anything that's more armored than a car because there is a good chance you're not going to be able to penetrate their armor. So, to summarize, this shell is for tanks, and this shell is for literally anything else that is not more armored than a tank. Oh yeah, one more thing. Your goal in a modern battle tank is to stay at long range. Staying at long range is good for living because a modern tank's biggest weakness is being flanked. The sides and the rear are much weaker compared to the frontal armor, as you can see here. 51 compared to this and that. Take the train out of here. Black is even weaker than the sides, and if you're in a modern tank, I don't recommend letting the enemy see your sides at all. Modern tanks are the backbone of a military. They allow infantry to push, they allow anything else to push, and if you will not be able to keep any offensive going without a tank, then it'll be a lot harder, and you'll basically be fighting like it's a World War I. You'll basically be fighting World War I. So that's why. So, what did we learn? Tanks are cool, they support everything, and stay in school, don't do drugs. This is German, signing out.